I first saw Drive back when it was originally released in 2011, and to me, look, I was underwhelmed by it. I found it to be like a classic example of style over substance. So was I wrong? I think it's time to find out if I was wrong. So I did a rewatch. Let's talk about Drive. For those who hadn't seen it, Drive tells the story of a stuntman and mechanic who moonlights as a getaway driver. He finds himself falling in love with his neighbor, but things get more complicated when her husband is released from prison. The movie stars Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan, Bryan Cranston, Albert Brooks, Oscar Isaac, Christina Hendricks, and Ron Perlman. When we were doing filming for Adventures in Game Chasing, I got fairly close with the crew, became friends with them and stuff like that. One night in particular, we were doing some shoots that were pretty intricate. There's a lot of setups, things like that. So there was some downtime for some of us, and we were talking about our favorite movies. And Rudy, our first assistant director, Rudy said that one of his favorites was Drive, and I said that I didn't really care for it, and he urged me to give it another shot. 3 years later, but yeah, let's do it. I remember on that original watch, I felt like there was a tone problem. And I can see why that I thought that. I still have some issues with it. And I remember thinking that the music was out of place. And not so much anymore. I actually felt that the music worked a lot better this time around. I guess the question would be, is it really style over substance? And I think in a lot of ways, yes, it is. It really is. But I'll go back to my example of the three-legged table, where, one is the story, one is character, and one is the technical aspects. So the way it's shot, the way it sounds, the way it looks, all of those things. And to me, this table it's very lean on story. Not that it leans on story, it just feels like there's not a whole lot of story to tell here. And sometimes that story goes off in directions that I'm like, why are we spending this time? For example, there's a scene with Albert Brooks and Ron Perlman, who both are really fantastic actors, really great. But apparently there was a lot of playing around with character and playing around with some of the things that some of those characters would do. And that scene in particular, there's one long scene with them. It just feels completely out of place in the movie. The director, Nicholas Winding Refn, I believe is how you say it, he said that the actors would frequently come over to his house and they would talk about scenes, and then they would try to play around with some of the ideas in the scenes and what would happen. And then individually they would go off and sort of create this backstory for their characters, because the original story was pretty lean on detail as well. So they invented a lot of things to be put in the movie, and some of them work and some of them just they don't, and I just feel like it muddies the waters. The screenwriter is Hossein Amini, and he said that there was a lot of room in the script for inventing relationships between the characters that weren't in the original story. And yeah, like I said, there were things that it just wasn't very, very focused, to me. And I think that's my biggest single issue with the movie is that the story just isn't focused. And incidentally, Hossein Amini is one of the screenwriters for Obi-Wan. One of the things Amini says is that it's interesting to have a character without a distinct goal. And that the character of Driver, which that's his name in the movie, Ryan Gosling, he doesn't have a goal. And I find that to be incorrect. His goal is Irene. His goal is Irene. And the idea that they just kind of threw that away, it seems a little strange, because to me that's the heart of the story. The relationship between Driver and Irene, it's beautiful. And I think Ryan Gosling and Carey Mulligan do just some fantastic work here. And every time this story pulls away from them, and pulls away from not just them, but the surrounding story, the surrounding things that are going on with them, it frustrates me. And one of those is Irene's husband. when he returns from prison, Oscar Isaac, which is, it's kind of strange that I keep finding, or I guess rediscovering, these early Oscar Isaac roles, which is kind of cool. But I really wanted more of the dynamic between those three characters. They sort of hint at it, and it starts to be like, okay, this is going to be an interesting thing that happens. And then no, it doesn't happen. And that's just frustrating to me. If you read any reviews of Drive, I think, and especially the ones that are a little more critical of the movie, there's some people that just think it's beautiful, and hey, I get it. I totally get it. Like, I totally understand if you love this movie, and I totally understand if you don't love this movie, like, don't even like this movie. I wouldn't say hate it. I don't think there's a lot of hate for this movie, but there's just a lot of, like, you either love it or you're just kind of And if you read some of those reviews, they talk about the pacing is all over the place, where it's all the way pedal to the metal, holy crap, this is so exciting, to a complete dead stop and nothing happens for a while, and you're just kind of lulled into this false sense of just nothing happening, and then bam, things happen again. I think that's a big issue with the movie. I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. I will say that having been on the other side of the camera now, I can appreciate the film a lot more. For one thing, it is exquisite to look at. It is a beautifully shot film, and the performances across the board, there's not a weak link across any of them. They are all fantastic. There are some story issues there, at least in my opinion, but the character work, the actual acting is just great. And I mean, was I wrong? I mean, I gave it, like, I'd probably give it like a 2 stars back then. That's probably what I would have given it. So I guess I was a little bit wrong, but I still don't love it. I probably have it now around a 3, maybe 3.25 stars, but a solid 3 is probably where I'm going to land on this one. Now, for those of you who actually love Drive, I need to tell you about this. This is a new edition of the movie on 4K from Second Sight Films. This is a sexy box, okay? It's a new 4K master in HDR, graded by the film's original colorist. It's got a new Dolby Atmos track, a new exclusive audio commentary by the director and film critic Peter Bradshaw. It's got new documentaries. It comes with a new 240-page hardback book with new essays. It comes with the original novel. So that's pretty interesting. I think I'd like to read that. And then, of course, 7 collector's art cards. Look, it's kind of a cool set if you're a fan of the movie. So yeah, I was maybe a little harsher on Drive than I should have been, but I still don't think it's perfect. I do appreciate it a lot more, but I'm curious about you. Are you a big fan of Drive? Did some of the things that I said just made you go, God, I hate that? Or are you kind of like me? You like, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's not a classic or anything. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you think. So let me know down below and we will talk about it. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.